their employer doesn't cover it anymore? There must be other forces than just demographics, right? Or people
Well,
suddenly getting sicker.
I think demographics are a key factor in it. I think if you look at self-pay is probably one of the few bright spots in the sector, to be perfectly honest. I think Spire had a 12% growth in self-pay at the end of last year. Their projection for the next few years is a 14% growth in self-pay. So I think self-pay is increasing in double-digit terms. We'll leave BMI for a second because they seem to book many of the trends, so we'll just pause on BMI. But certainly, if you look at the other major competitors, they are looking at double-digit self-pay growth. And what is a fact is when NHS waiting lists grow, self-pay also grows. So self-pay, I think, is in a buoyant position at the moment for the country, both London and out of London as well. So I think that is one factor. I would agree with the point you made earlier about the affordability of private insurance. I think the individuals who are taking out private insurance is on the decline. I think company private insurance is still probably a very, very slight growth. So overall, probably the market is static. There's certainly no growth in the private sector. The private insurance market. And I think, and in addition, the big boys, the Bupas, the AXAs, the Avivas are putting more and more obstacles in the way of individuals to actually go into a hospital and have elective surgery. So I think Spire showing very, very modest growth. I think last year maybe 1% growth on insured, actually slight decline, I believe. Actually 1.6% decline. The BMI latest results, I think, are a 9.6% decline in insured patients. So I think the insured market is not in a buoyant position at all. But I think NHS combination of mainly of demand is and will continue to grow.
Fair enough. So you're saying that the demand is due to demographics, and I guess both NHS and self-pay are growing at the expense of PMI, effectively. Is that one way to?
Yeah, I think the other thing is that the distribution of resources within the NHS is also quite interesting. So I think if you have a cancer issue or a cardiac or cardiology issue, you tend to have pretty good service and you can be treated pretty quickly. If you have an elective problem, a hip replacement, a knee replacement, a hernia repair, something that is not a massive problem if that waits and waits and waits, what you find is that you will wait longer and longer for those procedures. So it's no coincidence that Spire do 9.1% of all hips and knees in the country because they're elective procedures that tend to be reducing within the NHS. So if you have a particular problem and you need a hip and knee replacement, as an example, you've more chance of waiting a longer time than certainly you would if you had a cancer condition or a life-threatening cardiac condition.
Fair enough.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does make sense. And I guess why then, just to go back on self-pay really quickly, obviously we're saying it's obviously very expensive, healthcare is obviously very expensive. Why has then self-pay grown? It's a bit counterintuitive. Is it because people that just have the money just ends up not wanting to wait for the NHS because waiting times have grown, and the PMI, I guess the level of service from the PMI hasn't really been all that great considering how much you're paying for insurance, so people just go it alone?
I think there's a number of factors. I think that without a doubt, people who can afford it are not prepared to wait for 6 months to a year for procedures, particularly if you're an individual who would be self-employed and that's causing you difficulties actually earning an income. Then I think we tend to find a number of people in that category will pay for themselves. I think that's one factor. Secondly, I think all the big players are doing far more advertising and far more marketing of self-paying than perhaps they've ever done previously. So there's a lot.
The operators.
Yeah. Spire, BMI, Nuffield,
Yeah.
everybody.